perfect end to a perfect day. Manchester City 4, Manchester United 1. Oh, what a hedge! Oh, that's electrifying!
Hat-trick hunting, trick getting. Still the appetite is there for more. Oh, it is sensational!
What's up, guys? What's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome to the channel. To be honest with you, if I'm 100% honest, I wanted to avoid this. I wanted to run away from it the same way I tried to avoid the 115 charges, because for me, it's just stressful. All this just gives me too much stress, and I keep thinking a lot, saying what's going on, why this, why that. But I was like, you know what? Instead of letting the rival fans always just yap about it, I'm just going to get a few guys who are City fans. I have Martin here, I have Dave here, I have Carl here, and then we're just going to discuss this and talk about it. But obviously, when we were on a space earlier on, I think Carl dove deep into this. He went deeper into this, so he's going to tell us more of what he was telling us, even outside the space. But welcome, guys. So obviously, Man City have launched an unprecedented legal action against the Premier League, and the whole Twitter universe is going mad. And all I'm seeing on YouTube as soon as I log in is Man City this, Man City that. Quite funny for a club that nobody rates, as they say, nobody cares about Man City. We are Man City everywhere. Newspapers, Man City. Twitter feed, Man City. It's crazy. And even the rival fans right now are on spaces as we speak, talking about Man City. So I just said, okay, we're gonna have to talk about this. So look, Dave, big up to you, man. How you doing?
I'm all right, Patrick. Good evening to you guys. They love us. They're in love with us because they are closeted. That's what they are. They're in love with us. Fascinated by Manchester City.
They are, man. What about yourself, Carl and Martin? How you guys doing? Martin, I see you've had a busy day. You've been representing Man City everywhere, probably answering for all the crimes as if you are the one who's responsible.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting a 10-year sentence after today. I feel like I'm going in front of the dock tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, at this point in time, Martin is gonna have to go in court too. What about yourself, Carl? How you doing, man? It's been a long day. Believe it or not, even right now as we speak, there's still spaces. People are still talking about us. It's either it's United fans, Chelsea fans, Aston Villa fans. Everybody's joining in. It's all Man City. But how's your day been, Carl?
It's been good. I've been busy. I've shared with you and others on WhatsApp the belly of the beast on all this foolishness that's going on. And I hope we talk about it today, about the facts. I was talking to some Chelsea fans on the WhatsApp group. They were coming with me about this stuff and that. And listen, you don't even know the cases, so don't come to me about this stuff, right? I mean, I'm fortunate and privileged enough to have worked in investment banking in terms of transactions, contract structure, funding. One of my clients used to be the guys from Abu Dhabi, right? One of my clients used to be Standard Chartered that supports Liverpool. So I used to fly to the high streets of London to talk to banks and stuff like that. It's part of my job. Part of my job was to talk to Fitch, Standard & Poor's, is to do ratings for banks. Right? When they come and talk to your bank about what you're doing, credit, all that kind of stuff, my job was to present the facts to them, financial facts, projections, right? And part of that is also negotiating contract and look at the legal stuff. When I read all the stuff that's out there, there's only one conclusion. It's bullshit. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
Okay, so let's start there because, Carl, as I said when I brought you here, because you already dove deep with us in the chat, and I'm pretty sure a lot of fans, City fans, are coming on. Like same as me, I am one of those fans that I don't really, when it comes to these legal stuff or financial stuff, I look at it and say somebody's gonna have to break it down for me, because I'm like I'm more interested looking for the transfer window, but we can't avoid this at all, because as much as I understand, from my understanding is this has to do with sponsorship deals, and looks like there's a third party that scrutinizes you before it's accepted. And I just found out that also that sponsor, the sponsors, the president from the sponsor has to explain themselves why they're giving 50 mil to a certain place. So the funny thing is, if they explain and say, look, I want to give this, they still tell them that,
Well,
okay, can you value it? Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I mean, Martin would jump in here. Let's just break this down to the bare fundamentals, the actual fundamental. And I hope rival fans listen to what I'm telling them. Right, clear, right? Let's be clear. What this case is basically saying, you know, Sheikh Mansour, I know you're from Abu Dhabi. I know you happen to be a billionaire. You happen to be the vice president of the UAE. And you're a bloody good one, by the way, because when there's a problem in the Middle East, right, between Iran, Israel, Russia, you're the one they call to settle issues for America and for everybody else. You're a big guy, a big boy. And you happen to be from UAE. So, because you're from there, we don't want anybody like Etihad or Emirates Palace, all those companies who are in the Middle East, who you know, by the way, to have anything to do with sponsoring the club in England, even though you own the club. Let's be clear. Even though you came here, you bought the club, you invested in the environment, in the community, revamped the whole place from a wasteland into one of the top premier organizations in the world. You did this. We don't want money coming from your part of the world because it's related party transactions. We don't trust that you alone by yourself with your money, right, is not funding this club indirectly through your friends. We don't want that. We want you to go to America, go to England, look for sponsors who are there and can give you money. We don't want your friends in your part of the world to have any connection to this club. But we're okay with Chelsea selling Cobham to themselves. We're okay with them selling their hotel to themselves. That's not a related party transaction. That's just okay because it's Todd Boehly and it's an American corporate structure. But we don't want state funding from you to come to there. We don't want that. This is the bottom line. It's the same thing that Amanda Staley talked about in the documentary about Newcastle, where Newcastle are not able to use money from large corporate sponsors in Saudi to fund their transactions or buy players because they're related party transactions. But it's okay for Ford in America to come in and sponsor, or Chevrolet United. It's okay for TeamViewer to come in. Nobody talks about the fact that City have hundreds of sponsors who are not from the Middle East, like Nestle, right? Like Nexen Tire, right?
Nissan.
Yeah, plenty of them. No one talks about that. You want to focus on Etihad, on ABA, on the Abu Dhabi group. And if you go back to the premise of the CAS judgment, now let's be clear to everybody. CAS is the Supreme Court of sport around the whole world. Nobody goes above CAS. No one does. Once CAS judges, it is done. But the Premier League say, well, we don't care about CAS because we're a club, we're a fraternity. So our rules apply to what you have here. We have the right to expel you or to admit you or to do whatever we want to. Not in a court of law, you don't. Because CAS supersedes whatever rule you have. In the CAS judgment, let me read it here. The conclusion, section 289. Let me read it here. In the view of the above, there is no doubt that Etihad fully complied with its payment and obligations towards Man City, and that City rendered all contractually agreed services to Etihad in return. The panel finds that Etihad sponsorship agreements are presumed to be negotiated at fair value. Premier League is saying that they were inflated. No, CAS says they are fair value. They are fair value. And that City, Sheikh Mansour, ADOG, and Etihad are considered to be not related parties. This is not me talking. This is CAS talking in section 289 of the judgment. Sheikh Mansour, MCFC, ADOG, and Etihad, the Airways, are considered not to be related parties. The Etihad sponsorship agreements were legally binding contracts. From SAC. There is no evidence that agreements were backdated or that City otherwise retrospectively tried to cover up any alleged violations following the publication of the leaked emails. This is section 289 of the CAS judgment. The same thing the Premier League is trying to uncover. Why? Because the Americans are there trying to create a protectionism. They talked about time bar. You asked about time bar, right? Right? About time bar. Time bar is not the issue. Time bar simply says, according to UEFA's rules, you cannot go past 5 years. That's their rule. It's not City's rule. It's not Castle. It's their rule. And time bar is not the issue. The issue is what I just read out. Did Sheikh Mansour fund City through these vehicles without disclosing that to the Premier League or to UEFA? Their answer, Cass, is he did not. Time bar is irrelevant because the case is clear. Let me be clear again.
Have you got the email part, Carl? Have you got the part about the emails? I think it's page 50.
Again, this is the cash. This is not me. This is the cash judgment. Section 289, the conclusion. There is no evidence that agreements were backdated or retrospectively tried to cover up any alleged violations following the publication of the leaked emails.
Yeah, the leaked emails. It's around. I looked at it earlier because, by the way, I'm starting to understand this Cass case from back to front.
Yeah, at this point, Martin, I will hire you if I'm getting sued because at this point,
we're seriously having to become lawyers without getting degrees. Page 50 odd of the Cass case, saw it earlier. It even says the alleged leaked emails do not show that the transactions were carried out.
Correct.
So what they're basically saying is, yes, you've got a leaked email, but there is nowhere where in that email it proves that what you've said in that email has actually happened. Nowhere in the books. Can't find it. So it's like me saying, Pat, it's like me texting you going, I'm going to give you £100. But then there's nowhere to show that I've given you the £100. I've never given it you. I've just sat and told you I'm going to give it you, but I haven't given it you.
Yeah.
And then using that as evidence that I've lied and conspired to not give you that money.
It doesn't make sense.
It's a load of guff. And they even talk about in the Cass case somewhere, and I'm going to find the exact quote, keep saying it. Even Cass, the panel, talk about how there is a deeper meaning behind some of this by UEFA at the time. There was a little bit of misbehaving going on to why a lot of this was going on, and it was worded very cleverly, you know, about the butterfly effects and things like that. It's very clever the way they worded it to do it. But it's like this case. This case has nothing to do with 115. No. But all I've heard all day is that this is 115. No one's even realizing we're not arguing about certain things. What we're at a point of, and I know this for a fact because I was told this earlier on, City have had enough. As a football club, as an entity, they've had enough of their name being dragged through the mud. They've had it now. They've had enough. This was always coming. Every people, organisation gets to a breaking point, and we're at our breaking point. And I don't mean as a fan base, I'm talking about as an organisation. The exact wording I got earlier is they're done with the media, they're done with owners, they're done with other teams. And I was listening to it earlier. You look at this third party ownership. Do you know how messed up this is now because of these new rules? Aston Villa, who have just qualified for the Champions League. This is Aston Villa. First time in the Champions League for a long time. I've only been able to get a 1-year deal with an online sponsor, an online gambling company. They've only been able to get it for 1 year because, again, they're changing the rules on online gambling for sponsorships. Chelsea cannot even get a sponsor at the minute for this season coming up.
Paramount was rejected, isn't it? When they wanted to sponsor.
They're not getting anyone. They're not getting anyone. There are other teams that are struggling because no third-party ownership, sponsorship is going to come into a system. By the way, that does not happen within UK law. This is City's point. You said it perfectly, Pat. No other director has to sit in front of the Premier League and go, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm paying them what I'm paying them. I mean, this is ridiculous.
No. They can still
this is like
no.
me buying a car. Exactly. They can say no. It's like me buying a car from Audi and saying, I don't believe what your engineer is telling me about how good this car is. I want to speak to the president of Audi. before I buy this car. Before I buy a product, I know but this is how stupid it sounds. Before I buy a product in Walmart, I want to speak to the owner of Walmart. Is this what we're doing now? Is this how colluded and silly football has become, that we don't believe a word anyone says anymore? What is this? What other organisation can change rules mid-season because of a democracy vote?
They changed it in 2021, isn't it? As soon as the Newcastle thing was being taken over.
But they changed it mid-season to stop Newcastle going buying.
But and this is where the misconception is with respect to the talk around City suing the Premier League. City aren't suing the Premier League because of what happened in 2021. They had reservations. I think this is November 2021. City did have reservations because they voted against. They and Newcastle voted against it in 2021. They had reservations, but clearly they were willing to put up with it. But then what happens is February of it starts in December of 2023 actually, when there's rumors about I think it's someone from I think it's Joao Neves, Ruben Neves, yes, who went to the Saudi league, and then there was rumors about
I think we've lost Dave there for a minute. Yeah. He's talking about the Ruben Neves thing where people are saying he might come back.
No, he's quite right. That was why it was stopped, to stop them going getting Ruben Neves.
Yeah.
Stopping going getting Karim Benzema. Because at that time, Newcastle were challenging in the top 4 or 5. Well, we can't have that. That's got to be stopped. That's got to be stopped straight away. So I'll just stop them. It's like, it's getting very, very silly now. You know, I've never known an organisation change rules mid. I understand close season. So now, every June, they all go down to the Premier League headquarters down in London, and they all have a meeting. And by the way, and even Stefan Boston talked about this earlier, I think it was this morning or yesterday on Talk Crap, that these meetings are not like they're all sat around having a cup of tea and they're all enjoying each other's company. It's very hostile. It's very sort of on edge, because you've got to remember there's 20 chief execs all in that room and they're all vying to beat each other. So of course they're all going to talk to each other and well, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. If you do this deal, I'll do you that deal. Do we really think that doesn't go on? And City have had enough of it. They're pulling the plug. People are saying City they want whistleblowers for City. City have decided they're going to be the whistleblowers now. They've had enough of it. This crap's got to stop. It's got to stop quick, because Sheikh Mansour said this 18 months ago. Manchester City is not going to be used as a mechanism for your club's failure. We ain't going to do it anymore because your club is run poorly. It's not fair. No one talks about what East Manchester, like Carl talked about. It was a dumping ground. I lived 5 minutes away from it. It was a dumping ground. If I took a picture of, 15, 20 years ago of it and picture of it now, it's unrecognizable. But you never hear about that. Never gets mentioned. Even our academy now they're coming after, because they're now going after us on third-party ownership within clubs, multi-club ownerships. The Savio deal, we had to sit in a meeting for 3 days to show that we'd paid market value for Savio. And the thing is, it's a third party organising this. I know the company's name. It's gone off my head because I know, I'm not going to mention the name. I know the person who used to be the CFO for the organisation. What the Premier League do, they go to an organisation, you probably know the company, Carl. They go and get stats off them. They do it for NFL and I think is it Major League Baseball, the basketball. They go and get all the stats from them. And that's how they determine third-party sponsorship, fair market.
Yeah.
From a company that collects data.
Yeah.
It begins with N. Do you know the name, Carl?
I don't know, but they're probably a market research market where they do valuation. I can't remember the name, but they do valuation of acquisitions and make sure it's at the right price. It's almost like your, you know how you want to
The
buy a
lenders
house,
won't believe them
like
as well.
valuation before you get the loan, something like that. Yeah.
Do
you
you?
hear me?
I hear you. I think Dave was talking about the Ruben Neves thing, and I remember when what's his name, Alex and Maxima was sold for 40 as one of the biggest prices out there. I think so. He was one of the biggest, and because everybody was getting small prices, and then Alex and Maxima, they're like, oh, why is he getting 40 for a player? Obviously, that was a good value because he was young, but I was shocked, to be honest, to see Ruben Neves going. I know those are the rumors, as you were explaining, that Newcastle were going to loan him back or anything. But the funny thing is, I keep saying, I think some of these changes, yes, you can agree with them that, okay, to change this, but they're only starting to change when they see somebody coming, somebody
Yeah.
But Patrick,
like, where was all this before?
well, Patrick, this again, and listen, I love them, American people, right? I live here, I enjoy it. This is class. This is what we do, right? We don't like competition. Why should anybody buy a club that was struggling years ago and make them a superstar club and take some of the revenue that we should have had? Where you won 4 in a row, won a Champions League, won how many titles? We are playing beautiful football. Where the light is on you. Where in the US right now, you're the most watched club. Not Arsenal, not Liverpool, not United. It's City. Last year, #1 in the US. Let's be clear. Where kids are, we're buying jerseys of City and say they want to be like De Bruyne and Haaland. Where you go to clubs, you see kids saying Haaland singing a song, not singing for Bruno or for Rashford, right? Kids are buying Foden shirts up and down, right? Like my son buying Foden. He comes to Manchester, during immigration, they ask him, who's your favorite player? The guy was expected to hear and said, no, it's Phil Foden. Right? Philip Walter Foden, an 8-year-old kid who wants to be like him because of the way he plays. They don't like that, Patrick. This is protectionism.
It is
It's
protection.
called Nielsen Sport, by the way. It's called Nielsen
Nielsen
Sport.
Sport. Yeah, Nielsen Sport. That's
Go
the
ahead,
name.
brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead. Dave, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, sorry, previously my Wi-Fi went down, but I was just saying that what happened was when the whole situation with Newcastle potentially taking Neves on loan and stuff, it sparked a bit of a frenzy within Premier League clubs. I'm not even sure why, but there was this, let's vote new rules into place. Let's vote new rules into place. That's how the February 2024 amendments basically come into place. And the day that was voted, I think 14 clubs voted for, City and 1 other club voted against, and then 4 clubs abstained.
Yeah.
And City released a statement on the day that they were going to challenge the Premier League, that those rules, the new associated party transaction rules, were off the charts, just wrong. Basically, they call them unlawful, which is what they're arguing now. And if you look at the crux of it, the way Martin has explained, it's basically that you're saying that the CEO or the CFO of Etihad Airways, when he wants to renew the deal with City, has to first of all prove that it's fair value by passing through the test of some company that you guys are going to send to him. Then when he passes through that test, even if they agree that it's fair value, he still has to sit in front of a panel that's probably going to be execs from other Premier League clubs to explain to them why his company sees that X amount of money is value for money in that deal. And if they do not agree, that deal is not going to go through. That is how crazy this is. So when I see rival fans agitating and saying City are trying to mess up the league, I'm like, have you read the thing?
You haven't read it, David.
I remember when it dropped, I posted a few tweets about it and I called it insane. And I think Stefan did a whole thread on the whole thing as well. And it didn't make any sense at the time. Not sure why people think that it should make sense now. It's absurd. And what's even worse is that, take for example, Chelsea don't have a shirt sponsor now, and they went to the UAE and met Abu Dhabi Tourism Authority for a sponsorship deal. And Abu Dhabi Tourism Authority worked out a shirt deal with Chelsea for 60 million. Chelsea don't have to justify that transaction. They don't. Abu Dhabi Authority is not related to Chelsea, so if they decided to do that transaction for 100 million, they don't. However, if City wants to do that same transaction for 10 million, they have to explain why.
Correct.
It makes
David,
no
David,
sense.
I want David to say this again, because David, I think you need to say it again so people understand what is going on, because it may not be clear. Explain that again to people about what this related party transaction is again,
Yeah,
so
so
that people can understand it, please.
basically, what they are suggesting right now, it's a simple example. Chelsea do not have a shirt sponsor right now.
Mhm.
Say Todd Bowley calls someone at Abu Dhabi Tourism Authority and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll give you 100 million over 5 years to be on your shirt," and the deal's fine. The Premier League is going to ratify that deal without any issues. If City's Etihad deal ran out and City went to Abu Dhabi Tourism Authority and said, "Okay, we want you to be our shirt sponsors and we're cracking out a deal and everything," and Abu Dhabi Tourism Authority went, "Okay, we'll do you a deal for 50 million. Half what Chelsea would do that deal for, by the way." The Premier League is like, "No, you're related. You have to explain it."
Right.
And it's mad.
And the reason why they say it's related is because His Royal Highness Sheikh Mansour comes from the UAE.
From the UAE. It makes no sense.
Right. He happens to be a billionaire.
They're basically trying to,
Right.
They're basically trying to say that Sheikh Mansour, brother or family member,
right,
or has connections into Etihad. So that's the party related.
Correct.
With a company like Etisalat, like Etisalat, I would agree that Etisalat is a related party deal, and I think that CAS treated that as such as well, because I think Khaldun is on the board of Etisalat. He is not the owner of Etisalat. He's on the board, but I can see why that argument is going to be made. However, for Etihad, it's not the case. It's not the case at all. And UEFA themselves agree with CAS in the CAS ruling that, first of all, City is not state-owned. That premise is set in the CAS ruling, that there is no evidence that City, through Abu Dhabi.
If I may reference the section 260 of the judgment, here's what it reads, right? It says, the panel finds that the fact that the Etihad is owned by the government of the Emirates of Abu Dhabi provides no proper basis for such conclusion, that no evidence has been presented about the particulars of funding potentially having come from unidentified sources. In the absence of such particulars as argued by City, UEFA's case with respect to funding being channeled through these third parties is based on innuendo and does not meet the requisite standard of proof.
Yep.
This is not CAS speaking. This is the CAS judgment.
Yeah. So when people say these things, I'm like, have you guys actually read that document? And it's been available for 3-4 years now. Have you actually read that document? Because it's clear.
They're not interested. That's the problem.
Nobody's not interested. They nitpick, as Martin says. They nitpick what they want to take to use as an agenda. So nobody reads it, to be honest. Welcome, Veta. Welcome, Veta.
Yeah.
Let me ask something before I go to Veta. I'm going to ask you guys, because as I said, for me, it's mostly football. And when these things come, I'm like, do I really want? Maybe that's how bad it is sometimes. Because that's the reason why I've been telling people when they're calling me to the panel, I was like, please, I don't want to come to your panel because I don't want to invest in this. I just want to leave it. Yeah, but I wanted to ask a question. So let's say, for instance, this happens where sponsors are coming in. Let's say Wolves will get theirs. Everybody, because Wolves, I'm pretty sure, because of that Asian tie they have, there's a lot of Asian sponsors are waiting to get into Wolves. What's the fear? What is the fear? Is these people somebody said, I keep seeing this, that, if this happens, then there'll be non-stop. The teams might sometimes also go into liquidation at the end. That's what people keep telling us. I don't know what they mean, but they're like, the things will get to an extreme where owners will just receive these investments and then they will not really focus on bringing back, getting back profit or bringing back money into the club. Do you think this is just fear, or do you think it's true? Because they say the only reason why there's policing is to avoid overexpenditure, over dominating. But I think everybody has a fair ground because everybody wants to get into the Premier League. And even on Veta's channel, Veta Games, we were there earlier on. Veta said something. There is Qatar waiting in the wings. And it's not only Qatar. I've been hearing rumors that there's Nigerian billionaires who are waiting to just jump into this. There's billionaires from Asia who are just waiting for certain things, for certain rules to just be removed, and they jump into this. So everybody eats. So why is there so much fear? Why is there so much fear that we don't want these people to come in? If you see, and another thing, I even ask Veta, if the big clubs who keep showing off to us, like Liverpool, United, Arsenal, say, you guys are too tiny. It doesn't matter whatever you do. We bring in revenue. We bring so much revenue. Sponsors come to us. So if the floodgates open, why are you scared? Why are you scared? Why are you worried? Because if I was a big boy, if I was like a rich guy, and somebody says that these guys are coming, I'll be like, okay, so even do I have access to that too? Then I'm gonna get bigger. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just asking from somebody who's a simple fan that why are they scared? Why are they scared so much? If that's the case, because for years, and I read something. I don't know if you guys read this, Martin, Dave, and Veta and Carl. A Newcastle fan wrote a thread, and he said, "Isn't it quite funny that years ago, AIG borrowed money to the Cronkies, and the Cronkies used that money to buy United. After they bought United, they sponsored you guys. So why is there that now things are shifting? And obviously, United fans went and started bombarding this person. Oh, we also saw that as corruption. We were not happy with that. Blah, blah, blah. But these things have been happening. You know, the sponsorships from America have been sponsoring American-owned clubs. I just don't get it. So I don't know if I have asked the question there, that why are they scared? Or are the other rivals saying the truth that as soon as you open the floodgates, it means that there's going to be chaos?
I think that it's down to one word, really, protectionism. But I also do feel that there is some degree of merit to what there's to the case of not just allowing people to spend how they want to spend. I think everybody would remember what happened to Leeds United or to Malaga or to QPR. That can happen.
Yeah.
Clubs can go bust. However, that situation happened those situations happened mostly because these club owners dumped debt on their clubs or assets stripped those clubs.
Correct.
So if you're going to go down that path, then attack debts. For example, United have about $1 billion in debt.
David, if you don't mind, David, let's explain what the asset stripping means, and let's give the example of you buy United, right? You leverage United's assets to borrow money, and when you don't pay back your loan because you have a collateral for the assets, you begin to sell pieces of it. Think about Barcelona selling their media rights and all that kind of stuff. The levers that they have to pull to make things basically balance the books. Right? That's different from an owner putting equity. Now, let's be clear. Let's do finance 101, right? To those who are out there. Debt and equity are two forms of investments in an organization, corporation.
Yeah.
There's quasi-debt, there's hybrids, there's all kind of stuff. But basically, debt is I go out and borrow money from a bank or a private equity institution against an asset, and I pay back interest to that person I borrowed money from in order to get profit from that asset. So you buy a business, you want to buy a business, you go to the bank, you get money from the bank says, okay, I'll give you money for 8%. You take that money into the business, you grow your business, you make money, you pay interest, you pay it off. If you don't pay the money, the bank comes and takes your business away, right? Debt.
Or your house, or your car.
Right.
More simple.
Equity is saying, listen, I believe in your vision. I'm going to take my own money, I'm going to invest it into this business at 100% risk. Therefore, if the business fails, I lose that money.
I lose that money.
Yeah, completely.
And Carl, let me add to that, because what also can't be missed when we think of the financial ecosystem with the introduction of the Middle Eastern owners, it also eliminated the business that would happen between these banks. It also eliminated that. And that is also against the status quo, against how we do business, because money circulating through the banks, even if it's a percentage, it still accumulates. And the Middle Eastern owners were bypassing that completely, and that was a disruption as well.
Sorry, can I just put that into more of a football analogy?
Go ahead.
And I'll use that in the transfer market. Why? From January onwards and the summertime, because trust me, this could be a very dry summer transfer-wise.
Like January.
Why?
Yeah, I think Carl didn't say the same thing, that there will be issues with people buying.
There is a reason because unless like Vater and Carl have spot on done it, but I'm just putting it into a football terms for the thick ones of us like myself. In terms of if that money doesn't get if that money doesn't get swelling around within the Premier League. So, for example, you look at the way transfers are always done. It takes a big move to go to a club. So, for example, let's use Grealish, 100 million goes to Villa. Yeah. Villa then have 100 million. So then they go on to another club. I want to buy your player for 50 million. That club then gets 50 million. That's how the money then starts moving around. It's like a carousel. It's like a domino. That first domino's got to go before everyone. Yeah. And if there is no one spending because of all these PSR, FFP, ABC, whatever you want to call this new thing now, how does anyone ever move? Because everyone is sat there right now going, I'm not doing anything. I'm waiting for you to move. Well, I'll wait for you to move. I can't move till that moves. Because even Caldoon said today, because there was a question asked of him, well, what about a swap deal? Well, we can't even do a lot of them at the minute because then it becomes into the wages, which was Carl's part in the wage to income ratio. And the sad thing is, the Premier League are so desperate to try and be the savior of football. What these thick clubs, and I will not call it Masters because Masters is a puppet. It is the members, the 20 members that are all sat there voting all these rules in. What they simply have not figured out yet is that now they're going to be, let's do an anchor. Let's put an anchor in. What does an anchor do? It weighs you down.
Let's talk about the anchor, Martin, just a bit. Let me explain what the anchor is, right? So
I mean, my God.
Yeah, let me explain. So what they're trying to do now, this new rule that they're trying to put in place, and help me out, David, if I miss anything, is they're saying, okay, listen, you can only spend X amount of on top of what the team that finishes last in the Premier League makes. Yeah. So let's say Southampton this year.
Wait. Say that again. Say that again. I didn't hear that from
Listen to this, right? Check this out. Okay. Let's say Southampton this year finished bottom of the league for whatever reason, right? And let's say they make £100 million in income. The Premier League is saying that, we want to cap the amount of money the top team, let's say to win the league, can spend by 4.5. That's it, right? So you can only spend 450 million on wages, on operating costs, on transfers, on amortization, right? In that year. Right? That's 450. Now, somebody asked me a question. What's the average total cost right now of the club? It's over 400 million. So all of a sudden, you fail FFP because you're over the limit already, just by that cap. Yeah. How does that make any sense?
But by the way, UEFA don't have that rule. So what you then do is Real Madrid, because the way it's going to work is you've got your 70% of your turnover, for example. Then if you want to go extra, so the big clubs want to go and buy say they go, right, we've spent our 70% income, and you go, right, we want to make a go at going into Europe, or we want to have a go at going for the league. They're saying, right, you can now only go at your anchor point, which is, for example, say Luton Town finished bottom. What did Luton earn this year, Carl?
Roughly like 100 million maximum.
I think it's 100.
So you could only go. So basically. So you could only go over them by that margin. You've only got that extra to play with. What people don't realise is that, so the Premier League then have a stopping point. Real Madrid come in and go, well, we can offer you 600 grand a week. We can offer you 700 grand a week. Yep. We are all going to get left behind in Europe.
100%.
And I made it, the perfect analogy is that I made to Carl earlier privately was, look at Syria. 20 years ago. Syria was the booming league. We all sat there on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning watching Syria with all packed stadiums and everything else. And then the financial crisis and other things happened in Syria and the league died because they're trying to be too clever for what they're doing here. And I'll tell you what this is all because the red clubs And not, I was on a show earlier and I spoke to an Arsenal fan and I thought, right, and he didn't realise what he was saying. And then at the very end, he went, well, you know, Arsenal Football Club used to be one of the founding members in the Premier League, and we were up there with United, and we want to be up there again. So what this is, we've taken food off their table, and they don't like it. So what they're going to do is now we're going to go to race. And there's another thing, you know, this thing of, oh, we don't do race, we don't include this, and I'm going to be careful because I don't want to get your channel upset, Pat. So I'm going to be respectful and word this in the correct way. These fans then don't even realize what they're saying afterwards when they call, in quotation marks, dirty Arab oil money. Well, you've just proven City's point right there. When you call it a state investment, and David was spot on, City are not owned by a state.
Yeah.
They're owned by Abu Dhabi Investment Group.
Correct.
That is a corporation, not a state. Where is this we're owned by state funded come from? But in the meantime, United, Liverpool fans, 6-7 months ago, were all changing profile pictures to Qatari flags and etc. because they wanted this state funding.
Yeah.
So which one is this, boys? I need
You
to
know
keep
what
up
it is, Martin? There's too much hypocrisy. That's the honest truth. There is too much hypocrisy from rival fans.
There's something that worries me that was allowed last season, and nobody's talked about it. And I know for a fact that if this was City, it would make the headlines. So many people do not know this, but at the start of last season, this season that's just ended, Leicester City's deal with FBS, their membership sponsor, the deal ran out, and they spent months looking for a sponsor. Nobody would give them. Their deal with FBS was 12 million a year. Nobody would give them 10. They spent months looking for a sponsor. They couldn't find one. You know what they did? They made a deal with themselves. King Power slapped itself back on the Leicester shirt for 12 million. On top of that,
King Power Stadium.
Yeah, the brand King Power, the guys who own Leicester.
The guy was on Leicester, yeah.
They gave Leicester the 12 million, put their brand on the shirt, gave them additional 8 million for naming up a training ground. And nobody bats an eyelid. It's like, oh no, it's fine. But if City did that, if Etihad ran out of a deal, ran out of if the deal ran out and City could not find someone else, and I don't know, Abu Dhabi United decided to sponsor City by itself and slap ADUG on the shirt and put 50 million a year for that, there's going to be outrage.
David, one more thing. I want to think about what David is saying, because David and Martin, so I hitting points where I can kind of pivot off. I have a question, and I'm going to do some research. I'll come back. When does the Etihad deal expire? When is it going to be renewed?
I think it's supposed to be renewed next year.
There we go. This is what's going on in the background. Now we know.
That's why City. Do you think that's what they're blocking? Do you think that's what they're blocking?
Yes.
No, it's not. Well, it has actually come out. City have actually, and they made this in their statement, City have lost out on 2 big sponsorship deals in the last 6 to 12 months.
Oh, I think that's part of the.
They have lost out for whatever reason. Yeah, but do you know what makes me laugh? And Carl made this point earlier. All they ever talk about is Emirates Palace, Etihad, Etisalat. Why does no one talk about Kellogg's? Why does no one talk about Joe? Or I don't know how you pronounce it fully. The Americans might be able to help me on that one. I'm not very. You know, we have no one talks about. We are a club that have a women's backed stadium, funded, sponsored. Joey are not from Abu Dhabi. Kellogg's are certainly not from Abu Dhabi. Stoney is not from Abu Dhabi. LG Electronics is not from. What is this? Well, why do you never hear? By the way, we're also sponsored by Shaw. For anyone who, I think we all wear antiperspirant. You know what Shaw is. So
you know what it is, Martin. It doesn't suit their narrative. That's the thing with the rival fans.
I was having this conversation about who sponsors who with. I think it was Miguel Delaney, and that's the day he blocked me. I was telling him that Go and take a look
He
at
blocked me
City's.
too. He blocked me too after.
Yeah, go take a look at City's top 10 commercial partners. I think by the numbers, I think it was 70% of City's commercial revenue comes from City's top 10 commercial partners. Of City's top 10 commercial partners, 5 of them are from the Middle East. However, 3 of the big 5, that the 5 companies that give City the most money, 3 of them are Nissan, Puma, and OKX. They have nothing to do with the UAE. They have nothing to do with the UAE. City's biggest deal from the UAE is the shirt deal and the stadium deal with Etihad. After that, the rest of those deals are 7-10 million deals. So what are you complaining about? You're complaining about £7 million. That's it. You're complaining about £5 million here and there. It makes no sense.
Have a look at United's deals. Who have been United's last 3 shirt sponsors?
The Chevrolet.
Chevrolet.
Right. So let's go through them.
What's on time?
They had AIG, Chevrolet, Team Viewer.
Yeah.
Now they've signed with Snapdragon now.
Right. So all of them can be classed as related parties. By the way, Standard Charter for Liverpool. Now, I'm not going to go into the deep down bad devil of that.
Yeah, we've seen
has anyone missed that news over the last 48 hours, or is that slipped under the net somewhere?
Well,
that's been around for 6 though.
But
it's only started fully coming out now.
Correct.
About what the dealings are. But because Liverpool are very clever at wiping things underneath a carpet and never being seen again.
Correct. Standard Chartered were fined $1.7 billion about a couple of years ago for the same thing. But it's coming out that actually the issue is actually broader than what they charged them for years ago.
Standard Chartered were fined.
And again, I won't go into it for your channel, Pat. I won't go into the dirty dark side of what
we shouldn't go to the dirty dark side, yeah.
It smacks of hypocrisy.
It
really, really does. And the sad thing is, I'll be honest with you, I always knew City were hated, but I always thought it was on a football level. I always thought it was on because we're better than everyone else, they don't like. Because like United were in the 90s. In the last week or so, it's got more personal, more to a point where I'm like, and I'm very glad Khaldoon mentioned the fans today.
Yeah.
Because it is us on this front line taking every single bullet, and it started out as a little bit of, an handgun, and we're now basically gone from an Uzi, and we're now at a bloody, cannon being fired at us.
Yeah,
and
you have to have a tough skin, because even let's say, for instance, if you do YouTube,
but you can't debate.
You have to have it. As soon as you just go there, it's as if you're like, you're the one who has to answer everything at all.
Yeah, you're not allowed to debate anymore, because straight away you're sensitive. You are a sensitive City fan. You're defending. And the other thing, I was having a debate with someone, a lovely person, was now guilty and prove innocence has now become the law. I didn't realize that was now the law in the world. I always thought it was innocence to be proven guilty. But that's now changed somewhere. I don't know if I must have missed that little snippet of change of law.
Because I was having an argument with somebody. Yeah, Veta was on the same space as me as well. They will say, "Oh, why is City not cooperating?" I said to them, "Listen, City don't have to cooperate with the Premier League. Yeah. So, what are you talking about?"
Actually, Adam, let me clarify that City have cooperated with the Premier League. The issue, Adam, is not cooperation. The issue is that they're asking for evidence, documents that don't exist.
Yeah,
they do not exist. Let's be clear. Yeah. They're cooperating. They're asking for documents that do not exist. The same thing that Cass had said. The same thing they had said.
I think that's twofold. I think on the one side, they're definitely asking for documents that do not exist, but they are also asking for documents that exist but are sensitive to the organization's functioning. And that's part of the reason why the case has gone on so long, because of course City are not just going to give you everything. They are not going to give you sensitive documents for nothing. And that's why there's been a lot of litigation on what City is going to give here and not give here. And high courts have ruled in favor and against of giving XYZ document to the Premier League. But yes, City are cooperating. But the fact that I have to cooperate, I think by obligation, at least by obligation to the Premier League Charter, City have a right to a certain degree of cooperation that's demanded of them. However, that doesn't then translate to the fact that I have to give you everything, irrespective of what you're asking for, whether it's lawful or not. So if you come and ask me for something that I feel is not a document that I have to provide for you, I would challenge you in front of the High Court. And that's why there's been a lot of back and forth with little litigations. And one of the reasons anyway why the case has taken so long.
I've got to shoot in a minute, so I'm just going to... I think I want to make something perfectly clear on one or two people, because I think, and nobody here, because we all know, if anyone listening rival-wise, this thing that City have done, this legal challenge, people need to remember this 2 week, it's arbitration. It's not a court. It's not a system where we're sitting and proving guilt or innocence or anything else. This is arbitration, which is basically we're all going to sit down in a room for 2 weeks and City are going to go, well, can you tell me why you've got this? So, for example, say your parents are getting divorced, and generally you go down the road of parents are going to get divorced, we'll go into a court and we'll split the assets and let a judge decide who gets what, when and how. They always say to you, well, before we do that, let's go into arbitration and see if we can do it in a more amicable setting. Can we do it in a bit more of an informal setting? This is what City are doing at the minute. So we're not going into a court. It's the same way with the 115. It's not a court. We're not sat there. We're not going into a, Cass was the last situation. We've got to be very careful. So all what City are doing is what any private member is allowed to do of any organisation where you're a member of, is we're challenging some of the rules. Nothing to do with what. Personally, you want my honest opinion, this is just me speaking. I think 115's ought to be sorted out, and I think that's all. Because listen, that's just my honest opinion on it.
Why is that? Can I ask something? Why is that every time 115 is mentioned on this channel, it just changed now? My views got 115. There's some magical thing that keeps. I remember that even last time it stuck on 115, kept on staying on 115. Keep going, Matt.
Do you know what? I want City to change the phone number to 01611151115. I want City to embrace this 115. I really do, because I think it'd just be funny.
Ironically, and it just goes to show you how much bias there is in the British press and how much people are ready to believe lies. Believe it or not, City don't have 115 charges. If you want to go by counting how they've counted it, the number is 129. But for some reason, every last mainstream media outlet they've made 115 the thing. I'm not sure how they came to 115, but if you break it down and count,
because they've not explained it. Nobody's explained it good enough.
The truth
the number is 129.
It's not even 129. There's not even 121. There are 5 major charges.
It's 5 major charges broken down in 129 instances.
The core of which is around financial reporting. And let me explain how this works for everybody. I talked about this in the WhatsApp group earlier on. They're saying that, so when you do your financial projections, right? Your financial projections, let's say you have a business and you want to borrow money from a bank. The bank will say, okay, show me your business plan, your financial statement, financial plan for year 1. And show me your 5-year plan. How you're going to grow your business from this year for the next 5 years, how you're going to grow, how you're going to spend money, all those kinds of things, right? Right? They're saying that because the accounts were wrong in year 1, because we've been around for the past couple of years, every account that is built upon that based on those projections is now wrong. That's how it comes to 115, 129. It's not the Everton case where Everton breached their financials and it's clear in their account and they say, yep, you're done, because clearly on your financials, we saw the loss. This is different. This case is different from Everton, from Forest. This is about the Premier League asking for evidence of the fact that Sheikh Mansour provided money to City through these Etihad, through Abu Dhabi, through all these groups, which Cass has said that there's no evidence for it. But the Premier League are insisting that it is true because of a leaked email. How sick is that? And then the other one is that Mancini took money from Abu Dhabi as contracts for consulting in Abu Dhabi. If that was the
from
case,
a separate account apparently.
why isn't Mancini under tax fraud, tax watch? Because that's fraud, tax. I mean, when you start looking at these things, you need to ask yourself, what kind of organization does this kind of stuff? What are we doing here?
Yeah,
Mr.
but now
Master.
isn't it the fact that obviously all this comes down to, because now it's quite funny that, do you remember when Pep Guardiola, guys, all of us here, when he was a bit pissed off and after we were cleared by CAS, he spewed out the name of the club that seems to be in the forefront, which he said Arsenal. Arsenal, instead of beating us. Now, isn't it quite funny that when these leaks have come where even that guy who's the ex-City lawyer, ex-City advisor-in-law, he said this thing was supposed to remain secret. He doesn't understand how the guy who's wrote the article has come up with it. Now, there was somebody who wrote that the guy who wrote the article is actually married to an Arsenal exec or something. They just started connecting things. Then
it's come from Eden. I know. Come from Eden.
Yeah, then it comes out this evening that, oh, look at this. Arsenal are actually in the forefront of reporting of spilling this again, but apparently it was not supposed to be spilled. This was supposed to be a secret meeting between Man City and the Prem, as the guy said, the ex-Man City advisor, and also he said this was going to be secret. Even if they decide something, it was going to be quiet. But it looks like Arsenal, especially as Martin says, it's come out that it's Edu who spoke about it somewhere, and then this has been written in an article. It looks like Arsenal is the forefront. It looks like Arsenal.
Did you all see Edu's quote last week? Did you see Edu's quote last week?
What did he say?
He made a quote. Someone asked him about the City scenario, and he went, honestly, it is there. You can go and have a look at it somewhere. He made a quote, something along the lines of, I'm not going to speak on the City situation, but we all know what's going on in the background. Something to that effect. Arsenal are very butthurt. I don't know. Listen, I know why it is. And I said this earlier on. If City had not won 6 out of 7 and Liverpool or Arsenal or someone else had won 2 or 3 other Premier Leagues, none of this would be happening. None of this would be happening. No. This is because City are taking over. What they were all scared of in 2012 is happening. They're scared. And they don't know how to combat it. They found a way to stop Newcastle.
Yep.
They found a way to not stop City, because City have already gone over the hill and gone, because we won what we won. But what they're now trying to do is, see, this is very clever what they're doing. Thought about this earlier. What are City about approaching potentially in the next 12 to 18 months? What have City got to do in the next 12 to 18 months potentially? When you look at our squad, manager could be going. We might need to rebuild. KDB could probably going to have to leave. John, because like I said, there's no coincidence in 2026, 8 of our key players are all going to be 30 or over. So City know there's a rebuild coming up in the next 18 months.
We have to go again. That's the thing.
So what the Premier League are doing is they're getting all these rules in very quickly to stop. This is a way to block City and Newcastle going any further. We stop you now. We've let you have your fun. This is how we stop now. And City are going, no, you ain't going to do this. Listen, this is not. This is garbage. It's like this analogy that I made, and it was somebody told it me on my channel, and it was the best analogy I've ever heard. It's like having a private hunting club, and you've got 100 members, and 90 members all vote to go hunting Bengal tigers. Great, go and have fun. Go and hunt Bengal tigers. You're still going to prison if you because you are breaking the law. Your rules do not supersede law.
Yep.
When did law? When did rules and a vote supersede law? When did this change? We're changing everything now.
You know what I want to add to that, Martin, is also, because I've been hearing it a lot, the fact that City want to fight this law moving forward does not mean that they have broken rules prior. It also does not mean that they want to exploit the removal of this rule. They're trying to point out that this rule is uncompetitive. You're
trying to help.
You're truly preventing, again, City have made it. Other clubs have kind of made it. But you're preventing the next. You're preventing the Newcastles. You're preventing the quote unquote other investors that want to come to this league and be a part of it when you want to add these other evaluation rules. That's all that we're trying to point out. But they want to then challenge the messenger instead of what the message is. It's comical.
And
This is what
the
remember
one
what we
thing, the
say.
one thing
Wait,
I'm glad
sorry,
with,
Dave,
yeah,
before I forget, this is what we discussed on your show, Dave. We say this on Veda's show that look at it right now, guys. Martin, Adam, everybody, Veda, David, me and Veda say, look at it right now. Guess what? The two clubs that have made it to the UCL over the original cartel clubs. I'm talking about Aston Villa and Newcastle. Guess what's happening to them? Now Aston Villa have to sell Douglas Luiz. They have to sell a star from that team. Now look at Newcastle. Newcastle now also have to sell Bruno Guimaraes. They don't want, but it's either Isaac or Bruno Guimaraes. Apparently they have to sell to go out in line with the FFP or one of these rules. So what's happening is as soon as Newcastle and Villa get into the Champions League, how is Aston Villa going to compete with Douglas Luiz leaving, one of the biggest assets?
But Patrick, you know
And
what's funny?
now,
I can't have a lot of sympathy on Newcastle because we're the
But
ones
Patrick,
about to hit their 100
I was just
million.
about to say that. But look, you know what is it? Martin and other City fans have warned, other fans who have voted in favor of this rubbish that they did. And honest truth, look, some people may call me heartless, but sorry to say, karma is a bitch. They deserve everything that they get. Because we tried to warn them, but honest truth, they deserve every bit. I'm sorry to say.
yeah, like Newcastle fans got a bit giddy. They got a bit giddy. So Dave, that's the other thing where we were discussing that these teams like Aston Villa have reached the Champions League. So you're not telling me, like, look, Aston Villa's team didn't have to start selling Watkins or Douglas. It was beneficial for them right now while they've gone to the Champions League to start strengthening that when they go there, they don't get embarrassed, Like they don't get embarrassed because they will get embarrassed at the end of the day. So what do you think yourself? Like I think you were about to make a point before I spoke about that.
I think that that's exactly the point of how the current rules have been crafted. Now, and again, like I said earlier, I do see the merit of the need for financial control. However, the current format of it is just it's crazy, and it's there to protect certain people. Like you're rightfully saying, Aston Villa walking into the Champions League now, they're having to sell either a Douglas Luiz or finding a buyer for Ollie Watkins, to the point that Aston Villa have requested a vote to the Premier League to move the cap on losses from 105 million to 135 million so that they can survive. Because if that vote doesn't pass, Villa fail PSR. If that vote doesn't pass, Villa fail PSR. So it's exactly what that situation, that those rules were engineered to do, to keep a select few constantly getting that 40, 50 million guaranteed for the Champions League, while everybody else is sat there almost thinking in the back of their heads, we could get this one day, but in reality, you know that you never really would, because they've put these obstructions in place. Now, with respect to the current the rules that City are challenging, the one thing I would just mention is, I don't care whether City are wrong or right to challenge this, but here's what City are saying: these rules are unlawful. I think it's Veda who said it. Your rules do not supersede the law. So I do not care if you like City. I don't care if you hate City. If City get this thing in arbitration and those rules are removed, it proves that those rules were unlawful. And we cannot have a situation where people are saying, no, let's have unlawful rules just because they are convenient for some of us. We cannot do that. We cannot be in that situation. And funny enough, when this arbitration is going to be resolved, there's not going to be an official announcement on what's going to happen, by the way. It's stipulated in the Premier League rules. There will not be an official announcement. The Premier League would either get the win on the thing and the rules will stay the same, and that's how we are going to know that they won, or City are going to win the arbitration case, and then the rules are going to be removed or restructured, and that's how we are going to know that City won. So we are not really going to see the arguments that either side put forward or against that argument. We're not going to have any of that information, which again, It makes no sense because one way or the other, it allows for all sorts of speculative nonsense. Because the truth is, if City win defeat the Premier League on that case, what's going to happen is everybody else is going to be like, corruption and all of that nonsense. If City lose and the Prem actually win, what a lot of City fans are going to do is, the Prem is corrupt. Why are we not saying? So it makes no sense. And they've created a system that is so shady and unaccountable to anyone but themselves. And that's the reason why every time that someone puts up a bit of a challenge to the Premier League status quo, there's all of a sudden all the client journalists start popping out with articles left, right, and center about City being the villain, writing these articles with one-sided perspectives and all of that nonsense. So at the end of the day, Khaldun is right in suggesting that I think he said this 2 or 3 years ago, that it's basically a gang up on City. And I think at the time he said it was sad because the Premier League is under attack from outside.
Sorry to cut you off. If I'm correct, didn't Carl? Is Carl there? If I'm correct, sorry to cut you off here. Didn't Cass say themselves? Yeah, they feel like there's something against City. I swear they also said that as well.
Yeah,
They
that's
didn't
explained by Martin,
say that way, but they
Martin said it.
said
Didn't judge
something like that.
I mean, I know that rivals are not going to read it, but go study the Cass judgment. If you study the Cass judgment, you read it for in the detail it is. It's clear. I mean, let's be clear. Cass is the Supreme Court globally for all sports cases.
Yeah.
Let's say FIFA ban a country from participating in football, that country goes to where? Cass to adjudicate. That's what they go
Samuel
to.
Eto'o just got off Cass with the case in the Federation.
When Russian athletes are banned for doping or whatever it is, they go to Cass to go adjudicate, and Cass was a judgment. When Cass has spoken and has shown you the evidence, what are you doing? Where are you going to?
So that what I would say is,
but Danny,
what I would say
we're
about
the Premier League. We have our own special rules. We're a special club. No, you're not. You're not above Cass or above the rule of law. Go and murder somebody now. See what happens to you on the field.
Carl, it's not even that. Carl, they're not even above the Carl. They are not above the UK law, the anti-competition law.
You go abuse somebody racially on the field. See what happens to you when the police will come after you because I'm in the Premier League. Therefore, I can know. There's law.
What I think with the Premier League's case, the 115, anyways, is the Premier League. I don't begrudge the Premier League for bringing that case. I begrudge the Premier League for how they've handled the case, because what I think is the Premier League have a fiduciary duty to its shareholders to investigate on what the leaked documents and stuff insinuated or alleged that City did. They have a duty to do that. So I'm not necessarily bothered about the fact that they said, okay, CAS have done what they've done. We are going to do our own investigation. I'm not necessarily worried about that. But what annoys me is how they've gone about it. The leaks, they've basically gone about it the same way that UEFA
but
did.
David, I have a problem.
You know how we ended with UEFA.
They've
basically done the same thing as UEFA did, which is quite stupid.
David, I have a small problem with that because the Premier League should not have done it. In the interest of the game, point to the CAS judgment.
No, I don't disagree.
Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying, right? Here's what I'm saying, right? If you're smart enough, you know this is going to be a food fest or an F fest. You know it's going to be, and there's no way you come out of this in any good way. You know.
No, you don't.
So what is the politically expedient thing to do? Close the door, sit down, negotiate closed doors, settle it, and then point to the CAS judgment. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What you do? Because the brand that's promoted which brand, which club, which franchise, which club brought in Erling Braut Haaland? How many people have followed City the year they won the trophy because Erling Haaland was here? How many more eyes have come to the Premier League because of that guy?
There's been two franchise players in the Premier League in the last 10 years. Both of them are at City.
Exactly. The manager that this guy has, that the club has brought into this league to play this kind of football, that's changed the trajectory of the Premier League. Alex couldn't do it. Yes, United were winning. There was no competition. In this modern Premier League, Alex can't smell top three. In the modern Premier League, you can't smell it. Not with the 4-4-2 he's playing. You get killed. How do I know that? Go watch it. Two Champions League finals with Barcelona, 2008 and 2011. Go watch it. Go take a look.
Palpitations.
Destroyed. Was it? So he was so destroyed. His hand was shaking in that game.
Yeah, but he had palpitations.
He was killed. He was destroyed. A man changes the Guardiola comes and changes the ethos of the Premier League to the point where every year, apart from last year, almost every year, you had a Premier League team either competing for the Europa League final or Champions League final or Conference League final. One of the
raised the level.
But when you not create these problems, all of a sudden this year, with all the games, no one makes a semi-final. None of us. Because of your incompetence. Because while La Liga and Liga are protecting their teams, not playing on a Sunday, they're playing on a Thursday or a Friday to give them time to play and compete. You are saying, no, play Liverpool on a Saturday before the Champions League game on a Tuesday. Or West Ham, go play Arsenal on a Saturday just before your league game on whatever on Wednesday or Thursday.
And to what you're saying, just to add to what you're saying about City is the Premier League's flagship brand, whether they like to accept it or not, it is. Because there's not been very many superstar players in the Premier League like there's been in La Liga, for example. We had early 2000s, we had David Beckham, and then we had Cristiano Ronaldo. Between Cristiano Ronaldo and Kevin De Bruyne, there's no superstar player in the Premier League, not one. Right now, there's two real superstars in the Premier League. It's Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland. And then there's one superstar manager, Pep Guardiola. So whether anyone wants to admit it or not, however you feel about it, City are the Premier League's flagship brand. The problem that they've got now, which is, I agree with what you said, is you've put yourself in a situation where you cannot come out of this looking good. Even if you find City guilty, even the IC found City guilty, the Premier League don't come out of this looking good. Because what you're then saying is that you've allowed something to become your flagship brand through cheating, which you've proven to the entire planet your own incompetence. There's no way that they come out of this looking good. So I agree that what they should have done was, okay, do what City did with UEFA in 2014. We'll sit down, we'll talk about this thing, we are going to find a way about it, and then we are going to tell the people what we need to tell the people, even whether we thought that you're guilty or not. Now, opposition fans or other clubs would say, oh no, it's not fair. And you can make the argument, but for the sake of the product, sometimes you make those concessions. And it's a bit silly that they went about it in the way that they did. Because if you look at the case that they bought, first of all, I do not think that the IC, the Independent Commission, is capable of trying the City case, because what City have been accused of, and this is what people don't understand. I think it's Veda who elaborated on this earlier. People seem to think that the City case is similar to the Everton case. It's not. City are being accused of financial fraud for a decade. Correct. What the Premier League is saying is that everybody who went to CAS and gave witness statements lied. That's what they're saying. They're saying that the guys at Deloitte who gave witness statements, they lied. The guys at EY, they lied. The guys at Etihad, all of them lied. Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah, you have to then prove that all of these guys actually lied. And people say,
does that include that they're also throwing fraud towards the Sheikh?
Yes,
of course.
Yes,
implicitly, that's what they do, because he gave witness statement.
David, you don't mind, I want to focus on that. They're saying that the vice president of the UAE is a fraudulent player.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, let's be clear.
How does the IC prove that?
Patrick, are you hearing what we're saying?
No, I'm hearing what you're saying.
That the Premier League and all this,
that's a very heavy individual, and obviously, basically, look. So basically, you're telling, because there has to be audits that happened. Even the Prem say, I'm pretty sure
that is correct.
I don't know. Yeah, doesn't the Prem send auditors, or do
Patrick,
happen?
You know what's funny?
So they're also accusing the auditing companies.
Patrick, you know what's funny? Yeah,
Adam, let me just drop this point. So they're also saying the auditing companies, these are like independent companies.
Correct.
And you gave me some of the names, which are very big names.
BDO,
KPMG, are lying.
Yeah, they're lying.
What they're suggesting is that they are either lying or they were misled for 10 years. And
Yeah.
you can tell me that City misled one auditing firm over 2 years. If you're telling me that City managed to mislead 5 of the biggest auditing firms in the world for
It's insane.
how do you even go about proving that?
It's insane.
How do you go about proving that out of a court of law? How do you go about proving that? Who is your smoking gun? Because you're going to need one.
There's something called financial forensics, and they themselves are diligent to know that what they're signing off on, what they're actually
Thank
saying,
you very
yeah,
much.
things are accurate. They
Thank you
do
very
that themselves. So,
Thank you much. Well,
hey, good luck.
and I want to just put one little point here. When these guys sign off on their accounts, I mean, I used to work for an accounting firm, and my wife was an accountant too, right? When they sign off the accounts, the partner in charge of that account signs off. And don't forget, most of them are limited liability partnerships, which means that they could be personally liable for anything that comes out of that as well.
Yeah.
If you're an LLC, a corporation, then the corporation is liable. When it's an LLP, a partnership, you bear the risk as a guy who signs off that account. Many of them. It's insane. It is
the level of the accusation is it's mental. I don't think rival fans understand this.
They don't
It is
understand.
mental. I was trying to find a reference point in sport with something like this, and I came to find that even out of sports, there is no British company. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong on this. At least I have not seen in the history of the United Kingdom. There is no company, sports or outside, that has been accused of frauding their books for 10 years. None. I couldn't find one.
Even Enron couldn't do it.
I couldn't find one. So you're basically saying that the vice president of the United Arab Emirates has orchestrated the biggest corporate fraud case in British history. That is the accusation.
That's the accusation.
Can you then, because if you make that kind of claim, the standard of proof is going to be pretty high.
Very high.
It will be. How are you going about to prove that?
Very
and
high.
It goes without saying, if this is proving, because at the end of the day, the bottom line is it stems from the emails that suggest that deals were agreed, but Sheikh Mansour was paying the money through the sponsorships and not the actual companies paying. So if you go back to 2009, when the first Etihad, in 2010, when the first Etihad deal was signed, and you find out that, okay, that did not happen, subsequently, the entire case falls down. Because if it did not happen in 2009, why the same...
No, we lost him.
Oh, it froze.
Yeah. But Patrick, to David's point,
it's the level of accusation that people don't understand.
And it's funny because David, I mean, what frustrates me the most is exactly what David's talking about, right? People don't understand this stuff and the gravity of what they're talking about. They think, oh, because City are winning, and let's just, you're going to League 2, 115 charges. They don't understand the context of what this is about. And what really upsets me the most, is a lot of the guys who are trolling this stuff, many of them are people of color. And they understand the challenges that a person of color faces in this Western world. We know the challenges that we face to just manage and feed our families and get a good job and rise in our careers. We know what we face. Instead of looking at your tribalism for club aside and saying, listen, this thing they're doing, I'm not too sure about this single. Many of which who proclaim they have the same faith as those who come from that region are the ones who are actually poking the stick, not realizing that, guy, you're next. You're next. This is what really, really gets to me the most. It really gets to me.
So
Sorry.
now, yeah, I'll send it to Adam, then Veda can speak. Now it's just that I was speaking to a Newcastle fan. I think Veda, we said we're gonna look for, and I spoke to him, and he seems to be in the board saying, "I hope City win, and I hope Newcastle are backing us," because he's like, with the amount of like sponsors, he was just saying in WhatsApp, it's like the amount of sponsors apparently that have been rejected. Obviously, Newcastle keeps reporting that this has been rejected. Their board has been telling them that we can't do much because apparently the supporters keep going saying, why are you not investing? You brought Saudi, and that the lady who is at Newcastle keeps saying we can't do anything. they are blocking us. We can't completely not do anything. It's not like we're doing it purposely. They are blocking us. They keep telling us, no. There's been lists. They keep just saying, no. And as Dave said, how can somebody explain then show you that I have the finances to sponsor somebody and they still get a no when they sit down for the partner? So, Adam, what did you want to say, Adam, before I move to Veda?
No, I was just saying, look, I'm confident that we win. And listen, what did they expect? You can't be going into a room, and expect the bear not to attack you. That good old saying. Can't poke the bear and not expect the bear to react. So that's why I'm somewhat like saying, like, down fun. Yeah, like, why the hell are rival fans say, oh, why is City suing the Premier League this night? You can't expect, City not to. For how many years have they had their name tarnished and everything? Obviously, they're going to, and rightfully so, because people, there's certain people in the Premier League, in that boardroom in the Premier League, in boardrooms, have to go. And certain Richard Masters has to go. And I'm glad that he was not invited in the final game of the season, because I don't condone violence, but that he would have not been safe. Let's just say.
Good. So Veta, before we close on this, I don't know. So at the end of the day, if this continues and we can just seen that clubs are quiet, now it makes sense, because after hearing Dave, after hearing Martin, after hearing what Adam said, after hearing what Kawa said and what you said, this makes sense why everything is quiet. It looks like everybody is waiting for somebody to move. Maybe this makes sense, because I was complaining on a channel the other day saying how are Premier League teams looking at Douglas Luiz. I was like, Douglas Luiz is going to Juventus. We're just allowing him to walk out of the league while all of us are struggling with midfielders. Arsenal, United needed Douglas Luiz. City even needed Douglas Luiz. I know we got punked by the FA, but I'm like, I was wondering why he's been allowed to leave at the point where.
What's funny.
Yeah, wait. At the point where I was laughing that at the point where Juventus are giving them somebody. I think he was here already and failed, but they're giving Villa as an exchange to put money on top. And I'm like, so everyone is watching 60. 60 has been nothing for the past year. So now it makes sense. People are scared even of the 60 million. That if I drop a 60 million, the Prem will come and look at me. Where did you get the 60 million? You know what I mean? So Veta, where does this leave us now? Because this is the even before a transfer window is open, which is Friday. We used to already know that David Beckham is moving to Madrid. We used to know that, City, I've got this guy, or they're talking to him in the ear. Now, people are, for the funny thing that everybody's fighting over Bruno Guimaraes, and the reports by Ben Jagger keep saying clubs are asking Newcastle that, can you drop the 100 million? Can we negotiate this fee? And then somebody said, even Fabio said, everybody wants that Joe Neves kid from Benfica, but they're going to Benfica and say, Benfica, are you going to take 60? You know what I mean? Like, and Benfica's like, well, your Premier League clubs, you are paying the 102. So where is this going? Because go ahead.
This is what I'm gonna say. This is what's funny, because when we saw a hype last season, 3-horse race, transfer window comes around when it's like everyone's competitive, no one's making moves. No one's making moves to strike when the iron's hot, because there's so much questions in the air. This profit, sustainability, there's so much confusion. But what I find funny is the rules are put in place to try and protect, but no one really knows how to navigate. And it's stifling the league when you then see Real Madrid, they got no problems. 150 as a signing on fee. Wasn't even a transfer fee. Wasn't even pockets to stay in the football pyramid to give to PSG. I know PSG got money, but it wasn't even in that circle. It was money straight to Mbappe. So this is what I find that's going to be so interesting moving forward, because like I said, City are making this fight because they realize that this rule will stifle them as well as the league to remain competitive when you also think about competing in Europe. Too many of these clubs, too many of these fans believe that the owners are doing all that they can. They're not. The owners aren't doing all that they can to win. The owners are trying to do as little as they can to make maximize as much profit as they can. That's what they're really trying to do. So I don't know where
it's like the
one sec,
analogy
Adam.
that I
Adam,
like
one sec,
to
one sec, Adam, one sec, one sec. The one thing that I also want to emphasize is City's been abiding by these rules. City's been okay, we get it, we'll work together and try and improve. But when you inject this rule 2021, when you implement a new rule 2021 and you see what Saudi takeover of Newcastle and you other clubs are all trying to flex to protect yourselves from it, that's when City's like, nah, this can't continue because you're just going to implement a next rule and a next rule. We're fighting this now. So we'll see what happens as of Monday. It's going to be 2 weeks of, behind closed doors and arbitration or whatever. But I'm all for it. I'm 100% all for it. And this is City reacting to something from 2021, not from a very long, long time ago. It's not reactionary. It's realizing where the tide is going and trying to get ahead. I'm just hoping that other fans wise up and realize there's still more accountability on their owners and their clubs. We can't just only think about competing in England because we're going to continue to allow Real Madrid to get 16, 17, 18, and 19. So, man, I don't know. That's my rant. That's my rant. But thanks for having me on the show.
Before we close, where does that independent regulator from the government fall on all this?
No, for me, look, I was just about to talk about that, Patrick. For me, I'm actually a fan of it, and I hope the government do put that in place because, honest truth, yeah, you can't trust these useless guys at the Premier League. Honest truth, I'd rather have an independent person, yeah, that's controlled by the government that does it, because these useless guys that are say independent from the Premier League, I've got no interest in them. But I'll give an analogy why for rival fans when they try to blame City. It's like, it's like you've got a friend. It's like, imagine this, like Patrick or somebody who lives paycheck to paycheck, and then you got Veta who's filthy rich but invests his money wisely. But yet Patrick will make an excuse of I'm not rich because Veta has more money than me. Yeah, I don't see how it's Veta's fault. Yeah. Veta was smart with his money, but Patrick is living paycheck to paycheck. So I don't see how the hell is City's fault for spending their money wisely, putting people in the right places to help the club succeed, and to help the manager succeed, whoever the manager it is, yeah, to help that manager succeed. So I don't see how it's City's fault, yeah, for those clubs' failures.
Yeah, and I have to leave. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to leave in a few minutes, but
sorry for the analogy, Patrick.
I'm closing.
But I want to just piggyback on what Adam just said. Adam, what you have to realize first of all is this is not about. This is greed. This is protection.
This is corporate greed. That's all it is.
That's it. It's corporate greed, protectionism, and fear. It's all those things combined.
Because Carl, is as well. It's also racism. I swear.
Right. That's also part as well. These clowns from my part of the world are not used to having one team be dominant. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs or the New England Patriots were dominant in the NFL, right? And they didn't like that either. I mean, a football guy is here. I mean, Veta's here. He knows the game. They don't like that. It's designed to make sure one team doesn't dominate. And here you have one team in England killing football, 100 points, 4 quadruple, treble, 4-peat, now coming to 5 by God's grace. They don't want that stuff. Let's stop it. And then you want Newcastle to come with PIF money? Come on, I beg.
The thing I would say is I was glad. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the whole anchoring thing, the PFA basically put stifle it of oxygen. And I was so glad that the PFA actually developed some teeth for once to do something, because what people do not realize, and when I see fans of Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, they're cheering the whole anchor thing so that City cannot spend. This is what the whole anchor thing is about. If your club makes, I don't know, revenue of 700 million, let's say United have a phenomenal year and they make revenue of 700 million, but the last in the Premier League makes 100 million and they go by a factor of 5. That what they are saying is that your club cannot spend more than 500 million. You as a fan, you're thinking, yeah, this is good. It stops City. What you are not seeing is that your own club, your owners have an excuse to not spend.
Yeah.
You know what the Glazers would do? 200 million extra a year. dividends. So when
Yeah.
I see United fans championing things, I'm like, do you guys even listen to the nonsense that you champion? Like,
Nah,
how
they
are you
don't.
backing it?
They don't.
How are
It's
you
just
backing it?
agendas. It's
Mm.
just
And
agendas.
then
Yeah.
to the question that you asked about where we go from here, I think we would start seeing a lot of movement or a lot of decisions on not moving after next week's Premier League meeting, but definitely after the City case is done at the end of this month, because not only Villa are proposing a vote on changing the amount of allowable losses, Crystal Palace are proposing a vote on their own. That tells you how much in the league everybody's afraid. Everybody's scared to put their hand in their pocket because thinking, oh wait, I could get into trouble. So I think that after that vote on Thursday, if either the regulation that Palace want to pass or Villa want to pass, if those get voted in, allowing an extra 35 or 30 million pounds in losses, all of a sudden we are going to see clubs accelerate in the market and try to get things done. I don't think anybody will do anything before that meeting. After what the City case, the City suing the Premier League. As for that, honestly, I cannot say that I know what the outlook would be, but it would be good if the Premier League, if the arbitration ended up with City coming out on top and basically admitting that this is unlawful. It'll be good for people to see that, okay, this Premier League, especially the Red fans, this Premier League rules that you people claim are almighty are not always lawful. And you cannot come and tell me that it is okay for the government of my country to tell me that I have to live in my neighbor's house because they're the government. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
So
makes
just because
sense.
the Premier League is the Premier League doesn't mean that they can put in place unlawful regulation. And if that then is deemed to be unlawful, that winds down, and then they're going to have to find some other form of arrangement towards associated party transactions that are not so draconian. I think ultimately it's not the big deal that people are making it out to be per se, because at the end of the day, what will happen is if City are proven right, they're going to scrap that February 2024 update, and then they are going to have to vote on something that's lawful. They're not going to just leave it there. They are probably going to vote on something. However, if it remains, then again, it means that a lot of clubs, not just City, are going to have to dance around with their money to get things right. Because people make this seem like it affects only City. It doesn't. It affects a lot of other clubs. City is just the guy who's a poster boy for the hit. That's just what City are, the poster boy for the hit. So ultimately, I feel that the 2023-2024 season has just shown the Premier League cannibalizing itself. And I'm not sure how much further this goes before someone steps in. But and we talk about the independent regulator. I was looking at the bill that was being proposed. I love the idea, and City were backing it. But the problem with the independent regulator is it's not financed by any serious means. That, like for example, the Premier League's legal fees have gone up about 300% in the last 7 or 8 years. This past year alone, they've spent about 120 million pounds on legal fees. And that's not just for City. That's for everybody. That's for Chelsea. They spend that. Part of it's gone to Chelsea, part of it's gone to Everton, Forest, Leicester City. The independent commission, the independent regulator, as at now, at least the bill that's been proposed, doesn't have a financial plan that's suitable to dealing with a lot of the administrative matters that the Premier League is dealing with, which is the problem that they would face. But if they can sort that out, for me, that would be the best way to go about it. Some guy independent of these clubs, because that's what's most important. Someone outside of these clubs saying, hey, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're City, whether you're United, whatever it is that you're doing, this needs to stop. You cannot have a system where it's like the turkey voting for Christmas. That's what they say, yeah?
Yeah, that is true. We're gonna have to end it here, Dave. We're gonna have to end it here. We're gonna do another show, but we're gonna have to end it here. I just wanted to say sorry to the guys in the comments. I didn't read the comments, but I put all the comments on the screen. We'll end it here, and then we'll maybe do another show midweek. I'm pretty sure there will be more gossip coming out. Obviously, it's gonna be Edu again, since he's the one who's snitching. So if Eddie snitches again, we'll get more information. But I'd like to thank Martin, Carl, Adam, Veta, And Dave, for those guys who say they want to follow Dave, he's on Twitter. I put his link in the comments, and you can go follow him on Twitter. And that's if you're also willing to go into constant debates, because Dave likes debating a lot. So if you're willing to constant debates, go ahead and follow him at your own peril. But guys, subscribe to Veda Games. He had a show today. Go show him some love. Go to his channel and go watch the show. Why Always Me, episode 105. The man has been doing a lot of episodes. When he said 105, I was like, damn, this man has been consistent. And then you can also go to Martin and subscribe to his channel. And Martin has got a space today at 12 a.m. I attend to those spaces sometimes, but for me, they're too late. So unless I'm not sleeping, I join. But if you're willing to join at 12 a.m., they're mostly the
Patrick is trying to say is his bedtime, basically. It's too late for him.
It is my bedtime. And if you want to follow Adam also on Twitter, I don't know, I haven't seen him on Twitter a lot these days, but you can follow him. He's also Adam on Twitter.
Nah, you know, I've just been
celebrating too much.
No, I've just been slacking, and you know, it's on Twitter. Some say boring. I can't be asked to go back and forth with fans.
It is at a point in time where it's stressful. Let's be honest with you. Like the other time I sat there and it's like, do I really? Because I used to always slag people that, now because you're doing YouTube, you don't answer me and you don't answer us anymore. I get why you don't answer. People just come at you from nowhere. Like these days, I post something. Dave, you've seen my Twitter. Dave, you've also joined the fights before. I get a random 10-follower individual. They just jump at you. They're like, yeah, Patrick, so and so and so. You're like, oh my God, where did you come from? Like, so these days, when you do a lot of YouTube, I see you're just a target. Like people will find you and just say this and this. But anyway, thank you very much, guys. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead, subscribe, like the vid. I hope when the window opens, we start hearing window stuff. But with these people where everybody seems to be scared, I don't think we'll see a major signing in a while. I think people have to sell, and outside clubs, I think, are not willing to sell, are not willing to buy.
Patrick, anyways, if we don't sign anyone, we can have Veta playing up front. Yeah, you count as the winger.
Phillips can come back.
Then Kevin that midget could be as the DM, and then me, I could be the manager.
Yeah, cool, man. On that note, guys, thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you.